All right, let's talk. Client leaves you on red after you send a proposal or after you tell them your price, right? You sent them the link. Your brain immediately goes to, they hate it. I'm terrible at this. I should just quit. They don't want to pay this much. Or someone unfollows you on Instagram and your day is completely ruined. A customer leaves a 3-star review instead of 5 stars, and you spend the next 3 hours spiraling about every single thing you did wrong. If this sounds like you, okay, you're dealing with rejection sensitivity dysphoria. And it's not just being sensitive or taking things personally, it's a neurological response that feels like emotional whiplash. So the good news is you can learn how to work with it instead of letting it derail your entire business. That is exactly what we are diving into today.
Yo, yo, yes.
Yo, it's Alyece, say it right, no cap. ADHD CEO, yeah, we run this track. Systems that slap, brains built different. We make sales in our sleep, yeah, the hustle's efficient. This ain't fluff, nah, this is strategy raw for the ADHD. Minds breaking every old law. Hit subscribe, don't miss a single show. We're running on dopamine, let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
All right. Let me guess what happened to you last time you got criticism or got some kind of rejection in your business. Someone didn't respond to your email right away and you convinced yourself they thought you were annoying, right? A post didn't get as much engagement as usual and you questioned your entire content strategy. Or a client asked to reschedule and you assumed they were trying to ghost you. The worst part is logically, you were probably overreacting, but emotionally, it feels like proof you are failing, that you're not cut out for this, or that everyone secretly thinks you're a fraud of some sort. This is called rejection sensitive dysphoria in action. Okay. And it's an extreme emotional sensitivity to perceived rejection or criticism that many ADHD people, especially ADHD entrepreneurs, because you're in some sort of sales experience. And it doesn't just hurt your feelings, it sabotages your business decisions. You avoid following up with leads because you don't want to seem pushy, or you don't raise your prices because you are terrified someone will say no. And you second guess every single business decision because what if people judge you? RSD makes every piece of feedback feel like a personal attack. And you probably experienced this a lot as a child as well. And you were probably told you're too emotional or you're just too much to handle. And so we kind of start to believe those inner thoughts, even as a kid. But every neutral interaction feels like rejection. And every business risk feels like you're setting yourself up for public humiliation. This is often why ADHD people really struggle to have good connections, good relationships, or deep friendships. Maybe, especially as a child, you feel like, everyone's against you, or maybe you feel left out, not part of the group. And a lot of times it's just because the way we respond with RSD, other people see us as, oh my gosh, dramatic or emotional, way too emotional, they don't want to handle. And so I really want to talk about the stories RSD tells you about yourself and your business. So, one thing that I see a lot in entrepreneurs with ADHD is the story of like when everyone's judging me. So, you have this belief with your RSD that your brain is constantly scanning for like signs of rejection or disapproval. A client's taking 2 hours to respond. They must be mad. Someone didn't like your post. Everyone thinks you're terrible. Your brain treats every one of these as potential rejection. And because you are hypervigilant for criticism, you find it everywhere, even when it doesn't really exist. And that's exactly why inside ADHDpreneur Academy, we work on recognizing the difference between actual feedback and RSD fueled like catastrophes that you're making up in your head. Because you can't build a business when you're constantly defending yourself from these imaginary attacks. And you're not crazy. I'm not calling you crazy. Okay, I've done this myself. That's how I'm able to talk about this. But especially when you're building an online business, you're going to have those keyboard warriors, right? Or those haters. And so we often take those extremely personal, extra personal, like too personal. The next story that I see a lot from ADHD entrepreneurs that they're telling themselves is that I can't handle criticism trap. So the thing with RSD, it doesn't want you to know that criticism isn't the same as rejection. But when you have RSD, we often feel like they're identical. And so I've had a client before that came to me and she had sent an invoice and someone asked her, responded to that invoice and said, can we adjust this? And she felt like they were telling her, you were terrible and I hate you. Like that is what her brain was telling her because her brain didn't see the difference between constructive feedback or a personal attack. And so we end up avoiding these situations where you might receive criticism. Like you don't ask for testimonials because what if someone says something negative? Or maybe you don't launch something because what if people don't like it? But we often struggle to see fact versus fiction of what we're telling ourselves inside our head. So we end up avoiding these situations where we might receive that. And that's why I created the Focused In Free membership because we practice, those feelings from facts and have that daily accountability. So inside my membership, we do daily trainings. And part of that is just to keep you in momentum because with RSD, it's very easy for us to shut down and our executive dysfunction take over because we have felt rejected so much. We just completely shut the business down. And then this is something I see with like the emotional intensity of RSD. It doesn't mean the criticism is true that you're failing. It's just how we feel. And your feelings are valid, okay? I'm not here to devalidate your feelings, but you do have to understand your brain enough to be able to separate them. And then the next story that I hear very often my clients telling themselves is like one negative cancels out everything positive. And I see this actually a lot in my daughter as well. And looking back, I probably did this a lot as a kid, but I could have 99 happy clients. But if one person is disappointed, my brain will fixate on that one person. You could get 50 positive comments and that one critical one, that's all you remember. So this is RSD's like specialty of making one piece of negative feedback feel more real and important than everything positive. And it's not rational, but it is how our brain processes, perceived rejection. And so I really want to talk about, a little bit here of what the business world teaches us about criticism and rejection that really does make our RSD worse. You've probably been told by, maybe a mentor in the past or even a family member, like, get that thick skin. Everyone says you need thick skin for business and don't take it personally or learn how to handle that criticism. If you can't handle the heat, get out the kitchen kind of thing. But what they don't tell you is RSD isn't about being too sensitive or needing to toughen up. It is a neurological response. And so telling someone with RSD to just not take it personally is like telling someone with ADHD just to focus harder. It's not that you need thicker skin. You need strategies that work with your nervous system, not against it. And you need to be able to recognize when it's your nervous system telling you the wrong thing or your brain telling you the wrong thing versus actual constructive feedback. You might have also been told the customer is always right. This is a hard one, okay? Because I'm actually like, I went through this whole process when I was in corporate of becoming a customer experience officer. And it was really about the customer relationship and their life cycle and, how to make price irrelevant based on providing like exceptional customer service. But business culture tells us to bend over backwards for every customer, to take all the feedback as gospel and to like constantly improve based on that criticism. And when you have RSD, this is like a recipe for disaster because you'll twist yourself into knots trying to please everyone and still feel like you're failing. So, not all feedback is useful, not all criticism is accurate. Not everyone's opinion should carry equal weight in your business. This is something that we deep dive into a lot, especially during growth game plan sessions. So if you've never actually checked those out, you can find the information in the show notes as well. But I do offer what's called a growth game plan where I completely audit your business top to bottom and give you that feedback and that learning to filter that feedback through your values, not just your RSD. So definitely check the show notes for deets on that. But it's very eye opening for most entrepreneurs. And then, the visibility means vulnerability fear. So we often have this the more you're visible, the more criticism you'll receive. And that's just math. But for ADHD entrepreneurs with RSD, this can make marketing feel absolutely terrifying. And so you'll play small, you don't post consistently, you don't pitch yourself for opportunities, you kind of stay hidden because it feels safer. But playing small doesn't protect you from RSD. It limits the business growth while you're still experiencing the same emotional intensity over the smallest things. And so the breakthrough moment for me was really realizing that RSD isn't about criticism, it's about how my nervous system processes the feedback, the input. And I can't control whether someone will criticize me or not. I can't control whether a client will be happy with a post or flip out or a post will flop. I can control how I respond to it with my RSD as triggered though. And the truth here is that criticism and rejection are inevitable in your business. Once I stopped trying to avoid all the criticism and started building systems to handle it when it shows up, everything really changed for me. But spiraling 3 days after every piece of feedback is optional. You don't have to do that. You don't need to eliminate RSD to have a successful business, but you do need to learn to work with it. And again, that's exactly what I teach inside my ADHDpreneur Academy, how to build those dopamine friendly systems and understanding that RSD is going to be part of that. So I want to teach you really quickly how to handle criticism without spiraling when you do have RSD. Okay, small framework here. The 24-hour rule, number one. When you receive criticism or perceived rejection, you have 24 hours before you're allowed to respond to it or make any business decisions based on it. So if you were triggered by something, some sort of emotional flood, whether it be a comment, an email from a client, I want you to wait 24 hours. Okay. The intensity will usually decrease enough that you can evaluate whether that criticism is actually valid or if it's your RSD trying to talk to you. Once you get that critical feedback, write it out, okay? Whether you are a pen and paper person, Google Doc person, whatever, don't send it. Don't send a response. Wait 24 hours and then decide if that criticism is actionable or if it was, RSD amplifying it. Strategy number 2, fact versus feeling. So it really makes us feel like that rejection is a fact and you need a system to separate them. So when criticism hits you, ask yourself, what are the actual facts? Client asks for a revision. A client thinks I'm terrible and regrets hiring me. That's probably a feeling. Okay. They want a revision. That's a fact. This is one of those core frameworks that you need to use in your business because most of the story RSD tells you lives in the feeling category. It's not a fact category. And you can't make good business decisions based on RSD generated stories in your head. So create you a 2-column document. And on the left, facts, on the right, stories. You'll be surprised how little of your spiral is based on actual facts. And strategy number 3, the pre-decision response plan. Okay. Don't wait until your RSD is triggered to figure out how you're going to handle that criticism. Do it now. So, for example, when someone leaves, a negative comment, write out your process for that now. I'm going to wait 24 hours, respond professionally, close my laptop, go for a walk. When a client asks for revisions, I'm going to remind myself this is normal, review the feedback objectively, and respond with a timeline. But having some of these pre-decided responses removes the need to make decisions while emotionally flooded. It's like having a business continuity plan for your nervous system. So write out your response plan right now. Go ahead, write 3 common RSD triggers in your business and keep it somewhere you can reference when you're triggered. Strategy number 4, the trust filter system. So you can't always trust your own perception of criticism when RSD is activated. So don't try to process it alone. When you get that feedback, that critical feedback, send it to someone. Find 2 to 3 trusted people. This is one of the reasons like focused and free membership exists. But send it to them and say, is this as bad as it feels? 9 times out of 10, they'll help you see the feedback was either neutral, constructive, or not even about you. And again, that's why my membership is so important and even the academy, because students very often will send negative comments in there and say, how would you respond to this? Or, do you believe this too? And having a trust filter, a person or 2 or 3, give you that feedback, that reality check really helps bring you back to a better place. Strategy number 5 is the evidence list. So RSD really wants you to believe that one criticism means you're failing. You need concrete evidence to counter that story. So keep a running document of every positive piece of feedback ever. Get you a Google Doc, screenshot positive comments, screenshot positive testimonials, drop them in there. But when RSD tries to convince you that everyone hates your work, pull it out. Read through them. This isn't toxic productivity. This is giving your brain accurate data instead of letting your RSD cherry pick only negative stuff for you. So go ahead and start your Google Doc, your wins folder, your wins list, and reference back to that. A couple more practical implementation tips for social media. Turn off notifications. Okay. Check engagement on your schedule, not in real time. It's very easy to go back. If I say, okay, I'm going to check my TikTok comments every day at 2:00. If they left that comment yesterday, today at 2, I'm probably in a better place to read it. But it's not, unfollows aren't unusual. Okay. They're about that person's feed curation. They're not about you. Client feedback. Build a revisions round in your contracts if you're a service provider or even like a coach, and use templates for responding to these. Okay. For price rejections, remind yourself that no often means not right now or not the right fit, or, maybe it's just not for them. Maybe they're not the client for you. But no does not mean you're not valuable. And then visibility. This is definitely something I see a lot in my membership, but start with smaller platforms, private communities before trying to create this massive following. Build your confidence in low stake environments first. And we talk a lot about this. I give a lot of tips for this in Unmasked, my free Telegram community. So definitely jump in there. And if you're not already on the wait list for Flow First Thinking, my book coming out later this year, I would also jump on there because I am talking a lot about these practical implementation tips in that book itself. So I want you to hear this today. Having RSD doesn't mean you can't build a successful business. It just means you need different strategies than maybe a neurotypical entrepreneur. And you don't need to eliminate your sensitivity. You need systems to protect you when it's triggered. And the beautiful thing is, once you learn how to work with your RSD instead of fighting it, you'll actually become better at receiving feedback than most entrepreneurs because you've built the systems that they never needed to develop. So before you go, pick one strategy from this episode, just one. Don't try to implement all five at one time. And that is going to be your setup for overwhelm. If this episode really helps you understand your RSD better, share it with another ADHD entrepreneur who's been spiraling over that criticism. Take a screenshot of you listening to this, throw it in your stories, tag me at socially.awesome. We need to normalize that this is a real neurological experience, not a character flaw. And of course, if you're ready for support in building RSD proof business systems, dopamine driven systems, ADHD, you know, proof, ADHDpreneur Academy is now open again. I have more spots in there. And then the membership, of course, is always open. But your sensitivity is part of what makes you great at what you do. You just need to learn how to manage it so it doesn't manage you. And until next time, make it simple, make it social, make it awesome.